That
How you doing?
that music was awesome.
Oh, that's my band.
That's your band.
Yeah.
Which band?
Bruce Chester.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I love that riff.
Oh,
I
cool.
and it fit the video really well. So, what a great way to start things off.
Oh man, John misspelled the title of this episode and found A Tale of Two Sluts. Okay. Funny you should say that because when I was making the placeholder for this video, I thought, like, I've been goofing with a lot of AI stuff right now, and I thought I'm gonna make the logo in AI. I'm gonna just see what AI spits out for me, which I wound up not using. But if you've spent any time with generative AI, you'll find that every time you iterate on an idea, it gets worse and weirder. It's kind of like old Xerox technology, you know? Every time you ditto, it gets worse until it's like out of focus and shit. So I typed
Sounds
in...
more like a mimeograph machine.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's this generation's version of that. But I typed in, like, basically visualize a tale of two Strats logo, and it gave me like a tale of two Strats, and I kept iterating, and like 2 pages in, I got a tale of two twats.
Oh my god!
I was really tempted to use that
Oh
one.
my god!
Very interesting. Would you like some beer?
I would love a beer. It's been hot. It's been hot here. And I have been not drinking at all, and not because I'm trying to break any records or shock anybody.
Shock the monkey.
I just simply
Hey, do you want this whole beer? I can put the whole thing in here.
no.
All right.
God, you sound like, hey, what's one gonna do? You know.
Well, these are triples, so a little higher ABV, Fred.
But I had 2 physicals in one day.
right.
One that was just my annual physical, and the other one was for the company's insurance, the employee insurance policy.
Both in 1 week,
Both in the same day.
by the way.
Happy
Cheers.
whatever the hell day it is.
June 8th. We'll get to that in a moment. You
Mm.
like?
Okay, see you guys. I'm just gonna go out there and
Yay,
sit in the
success.
patio under the sun and
Yay.
let Joe wing it for about a half an hour.
You don't want me to do that. So physicals.
9 o'clock in the morning, I have a physical, and then at noon I have another one. So, you know, you have to fast before the night before, and I also had a little minor surgery to remove a cyst in my back that's been ongoing and ongoing and ongoing. So for a whole week, I just didn't eat any carbos. I didn't eat or drink anything that would negatively impact my physical or anything. So I ended up just drinking tons and tons of water for an entire week, and really light meals.
Yeah, you're spongy, dude. You're
Yeah.
super hydrated.
Real light meals, especially the evening meal, just a snack, to the point where I thought, okay, if anything comes up negative on my blood panel, I'm gonna be pissed because I worked for this.
I did the best I could.
And I got one of the panels today, one of the 2, and they were both taken on the same day, so they can't be that much different. I got one of them. Everything is right in the middle normal. Every single item on there is right in the middle normal. Except for one little item, and it's just slightly off, and it's off actually in a good way. It's just my bone marrows
A
are
little more awesome sauce
my
than
my
normal?
bone marrow is producing a slightly more than normal level of hemoglobin.
Oh.
So that's not like anything, unless it's doing that because there's an alien creature inside my body that needs to be murdered, but I don't know what that's about. It's not off the chart enough to even matter. So basically, I passed with flying colors.
Can I tell them what you sent me this week?
Well, tell me, because I don't have a clue what I sent you. The whole thing,
Oh, it was funny.
whole week has been like that. I'm just like,
I think it was on Tuesday.
every Tuesday, every day that follows the previous day, I ask somebody what happened yesterday, because I have no idea. My brain just, there's so many things going on. I just erase and start over again.
Well, we're entering the summer months too, which is like cooks the brain matter.
All
It's
right.
bad.
So what did I send you? And I don't remember.
I think it was on Tuesday. I forget what we were chatting about, but I get this video from Steve. Underneath it says, "Can you read these?" And it's this video, and it's Steve's like EKG print out. Well, spread all across the desk, and I'm like, I think I know what that is, but I can't read it. And Steve says, "Well, I'm learning how to read it right now. I'm online learning."
Yeah, well,
Which I thought was hilarious.
well, my doctor has done several EKGs. I mean, they're always so normal that he just doesn't bother anymore. But for the insurance one, they did an EKG. Well, the girl comes over and she's like, she does these all day long, and I look at it and go, "So what does this mean?" She goes, "I don't know."
Wow.
And so I went, "Can I take a picture of it?" She's going, "Oh, sure." And she goes, "You might have to do the panoramic." And I went, "I'm going to do better than I'm going to make a video of it." So I scanned
Yes.
the entire thing with my phone, and then I went and Googled it and started trying to read what it said. And what I found out was it said nothing of any interest here. So,
Yeah.
and then
yeah.
when I went in for the procedure to remove the cyst on my back, the doctor kept saying, "Okay, young man, we're ready to go," and I'm a good 10 years older than him, so I don't think he realized that I'm 10 years older than him and I look 10 years younger than him, and that was cracking me up. So I didn't say anything. I didn't want to hurt the guy's feelings.
Ooh, yeah, old Doc Google. Hey everyone, how's everybody doing? We got homies showing up.
A high serum level of vitamin D. Actually, my D is usually pretty low, so I take D supplements.
All human beings, D was pretty low for the most part.
Paul Crane, hi Steve and Joe. I just got back from a Weezer and Smashing Pumpkins gig in London.
What was the venue, Paul?
Cool.
Yeah, that's super cool. Doesn't Smashing Pumpkins have that new guitar player after that big that we're gonna audition the entire world? I think I remember that. Scott's saying the volume on our vocal is a little bit low.
Really, I turned it up.
Hold on a sec. Can you put a little overdrive on that?
I sure can.
All right. Or at least crank the power section.
What I did? I might have set it to auto,
Ah.
thinking I did.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm gonna jack it up.
All right. Thanks for telling us, Scott. Try and remedy the situation. Okay.
Okay,
How's
now
that
that is
sound?
a 40% increase. How do you like them
Wait,
apples?
40%?
Yeah, because I had it at 120 the last show, and I thought it was a little light. So I put it on automatic this time because I thought maybe the setting I had was a little too low, and automatic would take care of that, but automatic didn't.
Nico
So now
John
I
says
just jacked
sounds
it up
good.
another 20, number 20 on the scale, and now hopefully you can hear the beer gurgling down my throat as I'm drinking.
John wanted to, thinking maybe we could add some haunting mids.
Haunting Miz.
Yeah. But then we would be like isn't that the Dumble 2 Rock channel then?
Yeah.
Haunting mids is more in that domain.
Yeah, that and something about the crystal lattice.
The crystal lattice. Yeah. Hey, you knew Dumble, didn't you? A little bit?
Yeah. Yeah, we had what Eric Clapton described about his relationship with Jeff Beck as an arm's length friendship.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so, yeah. I mean, we crossed paths a few times. We had some yucks, and we didn't talk tech too much. It seemed like I just think that we were on such different wavelengths that there was this mutual respect thing. Didn't have to really talk much. Hey man, how's it going? Like, I kind of get what you're entirely about, so there isn't really anything I want to know.
Mhm.
Kind of working both directions.
Okay.
So every once in a while it would just be something like, hey, I saw that effect you put in an OD 100 for one of my clients, and he brought it over to me to have me check it and see what kind of job he did because he didn't want to offend me, and nice work,
Huh?
you know. So I went.
That's cool.
I said, oh well, thanks. It's I said normally I could be a little bit lazy on that stuff, but had a pretty good inkling that you were going to see it at one time or another, and so that's what I was thinking when I put that in. And he goes, and he kind of just went, yeah. See, the thing that I always when somebody asked me to put an effects loop on their amp, the thing that really drove me was that the send and the return jacks have got to be an even fraction of a distance between them, not just a random number like 1.5 or 1 3/8
But what is
or
this
something
for?
like that.
This is just for pure visual symmetry, or is this for
Partly that,
not
and they have to
signal
both be on
pro-
the same horizontal line exactly, or vertical line if they're stacked this way.
And what
They have to
happens
be
if they're
perfectly
not?
lined up vertically and horizontally.
What happens if they're not?
It looks like shit.
So it's just a visual
It's
thing.
just that totally. It's how you know when somebody didn't give a shit,
Right.
or or it's the kind of person that's got the calipers for eyes and the micrometer for fingers, you know, that they think they can just eyeball everything and it's perfect, and then when you look at it, it's all whopper jawed and it just looks like ass. So every once in a while, somebody that's trying to save a few bucks. I had an effects loop put in my deliverance because yours is kind of expensive. And I said, ours is not expensive, it's just made right. And that's why it costs the way it does.
Uh-huh.
It's made right, and then we install it, and it's installed right, and clean, and professionally. And that's what you're paying for. And if you don't pay for that, you get what you ended up with, and that's why you're here talking to me about it now in the aftermath. So, okay, now how much did you pay? Not only for us to clean up the previous mess and try to salvage it as much as possible and make it look as nice as possible, even though it's already been kind of messed up. You know, I mean, that's just the way.
But was there a soldering hole burned in the circuit board? That's all I want to know.
I just
Remember
saw
that?
Yeah. No, I mean, I've seen all stripes. One guy paid $150 for an FX loop, so he could save $150 by not buying ours.
Okay.
Because ours is $3. I think the whole job altogether, if you send it to us and we install it, it's like $3 and change.
Okay.
So, and I forget how much the kit is if you buy it, but some guy decided he saved some money, so he paid $150 for a guy to do an effects loop. And it wasn't an effects loop, it was insert jacks.
What?
A jack, two jacks between the master volume and the power amp input, no buffers, no
Oh.
attenuation, no return gains, no nothing. Just two jacks and two sloppily soldered pieces of wire.
Holy
And
crap.
and the jacks were not lined up any which way, and
Wow.
it was just
What
like
amp was that?
the Deliverance.
The Deliverance?
Yeah.
Man.
So yeah, we've seen a few of those. Hey Jeff, how's it going? The
The
O2,
O2.
what's the big fuck off venue, which sucks if one is up the back, but we weren't, and it was great. The sound was exceptional. New guitarist was a blonde lady who added a layer of texture. Nice. Thank you, Scrambles. You're awesome too. Wow.
Do you remember any particular jobs that you did that in your memory you're like, yeah, I'm not proud of that one?
Oh, early on, I'm sure there were plenty of those.
Getting your sea legs together?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure that there was stuff when I was a green punk. When I was at Valley Arts, a guy brought an amp to me that he had brought to me the previous year, which would have been when I first started working there. And he was so thrilled with the job that I did that he brought it back for a year later. And hey, it needs a couple things, and you did such a great job it last time. I just thought I'd bring it in and have you sort of check it out, make sure everything is good, and do whatever it needs like you did last time. And I opened it up and I was horrified.
That was me.
I went, wow, did I learn a lot? And so I had made a mistake I had made a wiring error. I had done, I was kind of sort of in my dumb day. I think I didn't do a cap job on it per se, but there was one or two bad filter caps in the main power supply, and I changed those. Somehow I wired, was the eyelet board set up that you lifted the board up off the chassis
Yes,
and
yeah.
pulled the capacitors out, and somehow I didn't wire that right, and I don't remember exactly what I did wrong, but it wasn't wired right, and
he had it that way for a year?
yeah, and so I fixed it, and he came and picked it up, and he's a great, what do I owe you? And I said, this one's on me. And he goes, wow, you did a great job last time. I can only imagine what it's going to sound like this time, and it's going to sound like it was supposed to last time, but so I just did it gratis because I didn't really do anything except undo my error and give it back to him. Everything else was fine. It was in good condition and the tubes were good, so didn't need anything. So I just went, yeah, this one's on me. Yeah, you guys are great, I went,
Oh,
dodged
wow.
that bullet.
Wow. Huh. Do you ever miss the days of being amp tech Steve and not design guy Steve?
My immediate reaction when you ask me that is no. But then, when I was talking to the Chili Peppers tech about why 2 of the 4 speaker jacks on his Marshall Major were wired backwards, I kind of just snapped into that old mode of this needs to be done right. And I didn't even think about it. Just the old, this has got to be done right creature came out and just took over. And this is shitty wire. This is a connection that's just about to break. Blah, 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 blah. We should just touch up this solder joint here. This blah, blah, blah. And then when I got all done with it, I just kind of snapped out of it and went, whoa, I just like went into a time tunnel or a wormhole or something for a sec. It was pretty interesting. And that kept me awake most of the night because I kept wondering, why are those 2 speaker jacks of the 4 wired backwards? kind of wrestled with that. And then just as I was falling asleep, I went, because he's using it with another amp, it's out of phase with it, and that's the stupid way somebody did years ago to solve that problem.
Oh.
That's what it was about. So I called up the tech the next day and I said, okay, because he didn't know why it was done that way
Yeah,
either.
yeah. It was a mystery.
And they'd already had a solution for it by that time. They didn't really realize that they needed. But he incorporated that.
Was it a Marshall Major?
Yeah, it was. They were running it into a splitter that, where each output of the splitter had a phase switch on it, so they could do it that way. So when the amps got wired back to stock, then
Who the hell was using that amp in conjunction with another? Like, was this always a Rockstar's amp?
it's
It's Frusciante's now, right?
yeah, he had it done. He's got 5 of them. He had it done to all of them.
Oh.
Because he uses them together with the Marshall, which has 1 extra gain stage, so it's out of phase with all of those.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But they later solved that problem using this radial amp switcher.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't need to be
Out
out of phase.
Yeah, yeah.
So they had the switcher putting the signal out of phase to compensate for the out of phase jacks on that amp.
Mm-hmm.
So that when it was wired properly, then they could turn the phase switch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, when you were there at the soundstage, didn't you play that 63 Strat that they're saying was Hendrix's, but probably wasn't Hendrix's? Did you played that guitar?
Yeah.
What'd you think?
I thought, wow, this is supposedly Hendrix's guitar. And I don't know what happened to it between the time that Hendrix had it in his hands and I had it in mine. But it's quite a clunker.
Mm.
It felt like a clunker.
Yeah.
It wasn't sparkly at all. It was kind of dullish.
Yeah.
Could have been the strings, I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know what was done inside, if anything. I just played it and I felt like, well, I don't know that there was anything wrong with it. It was just, this is a guitar for whatever it's worth. It's being played by somebody that has it set up the way he plays it, and it's not the way I would want a guitar set up.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it was just like, instead of going, wow, this has got this magic, now I can understand why it would have been one of Hendrix's guitars, because no, I didn't have that reaction at all. I just had this reaction of, meh, next.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting.
Like when I play my Strat and then I play yours, I'm immediately struck by the character differences of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I do the same thing that people do with speakers, is like, you know what, if you could blend both of these into one.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a switch to make it do that or then that.
I know.
And like,
I know.
and just point it right here and don't tell me when you're going to pull the trigger. Just get it over with. All right.
Yeah.
And move
You
on.
know, when we get into talking about these guitars in a bit, I had that very experience when I was, well, I'll talk about it later, but when I bought this guitar, I had the opportunity, I had this is a 57 Strat, and we'll talk about it later, like a real one, and I had the opportunity to buy one of 2 57 Strats.
Mm-hmm.
It was Steve Mess play at Wildwood.
Right. Yeah.
This one came in on consignment, and he had his own, and he really liked this one too. And he just said, here, just take them both, take them home. Whichever one you want, you buy that one, and then I'll keep the other one. Oh, man, did I give myself a migraine going back and forth between those. And it was, trying to find the one that split the difference, where the most magic was.
Bear.
We talking about this Hendrix comment?
Yeah, well, maybe so, but see, the thing is that's what everybody did buying Strats back in the day, because they were all over the place.
Well,
There would be a great one, and there would be a clunker, and then there would be. So I remember 3 or 4 times. It took me the longest time to find a Strat that I liked, but I did try buying a Strat 3 or 4 times new from a dealer, and every time I did, I went in there and sifted
show everybody your shirt. They're all talking about it. They want to know what it is.
through. I got the guy to bring out 4 or 5 of them, and then I went, oh,
Yeah,
this will be a good one.
yeah.
I think everybody did that, and like I said, there's a lot of water under the bridge on that guitar between the time the man had it and then the what's going on with it now. But if you listen to the records that Frusciante does now with the Chili Peppers, it sounds really good. It's really an interesting sound. It's just not for me.
I think
This is my
I know not what you're saying.
t- my what? The Tokyo Giants, the Japanese baseball team, Tokyo Giants. It's my Tokyo Giants T-shirt.
Wait, do you have what's on the back? Is there anything on the back?
I think the back is the.
Oh, yeah. Ha ha!
Sagano,
Nice.
who is he was the last coach, I think, of the Giants. Sagano? Or was he pitcher?
Are you
I knew at
asking
the
Nico,
time.
John?
Yeah.
I don't know anything about the Tokyo Giants. I don't know anything. Well, I don't
Well,
know much about
the
San
two
Francisco
big
Giants.
teams in Japan are the Tokyo Giants and the Carp, the Osaka Carp.
Mm.
They're the big teams, and you're either a fan of one or a fan of the other one. And if you're a fan of the other one, then you're an enemy of mine.
Oh, here we go. You know what? Would Nico-chan
Oh,
like
yeah,
to
he
come
was-
on and read some Tokyo Giants history?
Yeah, well, yeah. We went to. Yeah, he was a really famous pitcher, Sagano, for the Tokyo Giants, and I didn't know anything about the Tokyo Giants. We just were staying in Tokyo, at a hotel that was right next to the Tokyo Dome. So we went to the box office like the day before the game, thinking there's not going to be any seats, we're not
Oh.
going to, right?
Hmm.
But we just walked over there from our hotel to the box office to see what was available, and they had a couple of really nice seats available, and there was just a lot of people that were showing up and buying tickets the day of the game. It
Cool.
wasn't this big madness in
Yeah.
advance. So we went, okay, we're going to go to the Tokyo Dome. We're going to go see the Giants. So we did that, and when the next day we go down there, and there's all the concessions in the front. So we're like, okay, well we got to get Giants T-shirts and stuff. So we're like going through them and the names, and so I'm going, okay, who's this? Because I knew nothing. He goes, oh well, Sagano's like they were a top famous
Oh, okay.
pitcher,
All right.
and then I think Erico got the Otani one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, that was a lot of fun.
I've seen Otani 3 times this year.
Oh yeah.
In person, yeah. I'll go again probably next week. I mean, I live in Echo Park, and so we can just walk to Dodger Stadium from where I live.
Yeah,
It's
it
awesome.
rained the day that we went, and it was not a great game.
But wait, it's in the dome? Wasn't it covered?
No. The Dodgers game that we
Oh,
went
oh,
recently.
oh, that's right. I remember because you told me you were going to go, and I remember thinking, oh, yeah, it was kind of crap weather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crap weather and crap game.
Ah.
They go hand in hand.
You know, I think, I want to say I went to the game right after you. And
Hello.
what just happened? What are you doing? You Scooby-Doo?
Yeah, I'm saying hello to Amanda.
Oh. Hey everybody, hey Amanda, hey Steve. We got a bunch of homies. I think you and I are tired or something.
Tired?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's tired.
You just need more carbs? I'm out of sorts, man. I'm definitely out of sorts.
I'll tell you where I'm at. I'm running 150 miles an hour all the time. I've got my pedal to the metal continuously day and night. I do right now. It's hard to concentrate on doing the show because I've got 3 projects in progress going full steam inside my head right now. And I'm suppliers, parts,
Folding
completion
laundry.
dates. Yeah, huh?
Folding laundry,
Ah.
making a margarita,
That's what you're doing?
and remembering what day it is tomorrow.
Ah,
That's your list?
no. I thought you were telling me your list.
Oh my God, no.
No, I can't even-
I'm overwhelmed.
As
but
usually, I can't
normally-
even talk about my list. So I'm in my own personal. I'm in a great space. I'm having a lot of fun. I'm getting a lot of stuff done. But I had 2 video conferences this morning with a patent attorney and with an engineering guy that I use for some of our projects, the software stuff, and then I don't know. It's just been nutty. So I'm still in that mode. I'm in jamming to the deadline, to the ship date mode, and that's just, I don't know.
Sounded like you said shit date mode.
Yeah, ship date.
Sometimes it's the shit date, right?
No, we're barreling along at a pretty impressive clip, I gotta say. For my team are all pretty dialed in.
That rules.
Yeah,
And now that you can read electrocardiograms, you're in business.
I'm
man.
totally in business.
Just hang that on
You
your
know,
shingle, too.
nothing beats getting 2 physicals that are both like just slam dunks. So I'm feeling pretty
You're like, let's party.
totally, yeah. I'm like, all right, I've got some. I'm in pretty good shape. I could probably stand being found in a gutter out in the street one day just for laughs.
Well, let's see. It's June 8th, 2024. On what year was it? At some point, George Orwell put out a book called 1984. On this day, and
That was
whoever can put that in the comments first wins a big bunch of nothing. Didn't you say that to me?
yeah.
1984, folks. And here's another one for you. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the Michelangelo, the statue of David?
Yeah.
It was installed in the Cathedral of Florence on this day in 1504.
1504.
Amanda, you enjoy 1984? That's an interesting take on that. I don't think I enjoyed it. I read it. I think it was pretty depressing. But
Oh,
was it the Daily Hate? That sounds very malcontenty.
I don't know. No, I didn't look up what year
You just mentioned it to me.
or 1984 was published. It was published on June 8th,
Mark says 1949,
49.
the year my mom was born.
Yeah. On this date in 1874, Cochise dies.
Hey.
The great Sioux chief Cochise.
Yes. Paul, I haven't seen Wait, yes I have. I've actually seen that in person. What am I saying?
On this date in 1948,
1948?
yeah,
What happened?
Porsche completed their first prototype.
Hot damn. Oh, Paul, the 2-minute hate. Okay, I thought it was the daily hate. The 2-minute hate. Wasn't it daily though? Did they do it every day? The 2-minute hate. Man, something tells me you'd be into the 2-minute hate.
What's the 2-minute hate?
I don't know. Go off on vintage 30s for 2 minutes. You
Well,
ready?
what is the 2-minute hate? Is that a thing?
It's in 1984.
Oh,
It's
oh,
like,
oh.
you know, everybody converges for 2 minutes and it's like hive mind. And it's been a number of years since I read that book, maybe
It's, like,
15
it's probably a
years.
similar thing to that episode of Star Trek where they land on this planet and everybody looks like they're dressed like it's the era is like the Civil War era with the tall hats and the
Abe Lincoln stovetop.
the long coats and the Victorian dresses and all that stuff, and everybody is very calm and upstanding and super polite. Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, sir. Top of the morning to you. Blah blah blah. And then when the clock every day when the clock strikes 12, everybody just goes raging berserk. Rape in the streets, fights break out, throwing furniture through windows, and it all goes for like 10 minutes or something like that. There's this big collective freak out.
Wow.
And then the bell rings again, and everybody just like goes back to their walking down the street, politely talking, except their clothes are all ripped off.
Wow. Complete repression
Yeah.
until these little moments.
Yeah, you know, I don't know that I'm up for that I'm up for a vintage 30 rant today, but there's gonna be one. There's
Oh.
gonna be a reckoning. It involves a whole lot more than just the vintage 30.
Oh.
Well,
The tectonic plates are shifting.
yeah.
All the pressure hasn't built up sufficiently.
Yeah, I
yet.
don't want to go off the rails. I want to have some fun. I want to like
Do you want more beer?
not quite yet. Not quite yet. I just want to
What if we do beer? I'm not beer. What if we do water, and then we have beer? I'm gonna have water.
oh. Well, I certainly will have another water. I've been good at having water. I'm more interested in how our peeps are doing, honestly, today, and there's a guitars and amps. There's got a question up there. You mind popping that up and read it, since you can see
It
it?
says, Steve,
Hi.
there's a preamp. Well, yeah, okay, so it's from Guitars and Amps for Life, which, dig it. Steve, why does a preamp plus power amp rig tend to respond differently than when they're together in one amp head? Is it partially because of having separate power supplies?
It's almost entirely about having separate power supplies. In the self-contained amp, there's one power supply that supplies the voltage for everything. The preamp doesn't hardly draw any current. The power amp sucks all of the current. So
Thank you.
So it has a lot to do with the volume you're playing at, but
Thank you.
the minute the power amp stage starts drawing current out of the power supply, there's a dip in the voltage of the power supply. And that dip is transmitted to the preamp, which is downstream of the power amp. So the preamp voltage fluctuates in sympathy to what's going on in the power supply as a result of the power amp stage sucking current out of the power supply and then it recharging itself. So there's a lot more interplay between the preamp and the power amp as a result of the behavior of the power amp. In a separate preamp and power amp, not only is the preamp isolated from the ebb and flow of the current in the power amp stage, it's got its own power supply, which immunizes it from the behavior of the power amp. That's
Sure.
the first thing. And the second thing is most of the time people are comparing the sound of the preamp that's supposed to be similar to this kind of head plugged into the behavior of the power amp, whatever that power amp is. Often it's a stereo power amp. And just as often when they're making that comparison, they're only checking one channel. A stereo power amp, for example, has a power supply that's got enough juice to power 2 power amps.
Sure.
So if you're only using one of those 2 power amps, there's so much reserve voltage, reserve current left in the power supply that one channel of that power amp will fluctuate less than a single power amp in a self-contained amp. So there's that. And so besides the isolation and besides the fact that the if you're using a stereo power amp, you've got a power supply that if you're only testing with one channel, you've got a power supply that's got twice the available reserve energy as the typical guitar amp has. That's going to make it sound stiffer, it's going to make it less responsive,
Really?
and all those kinds of things. That's why
Huh.
the GP3 preamp and the power supply in the SIN 2 and the SIN 1 all have this dynamics control. That's what everybody calls the SAG control. That's why that's there. The SAG control reads the signal coming in from the guitar and affects the voltage coming out of the power supply
Right.
as a result,
Right.
in response to the signal coming in from the guitar, not in response to the behavior actually impacting the behavior of the power amp, because the power supply in a preamp isn't driving a speaker. So the SAG circuit fools the power supply into thinking that it's being loaded down the way the power amp section in the head would behave actually being loaded down. So, but still, it's still a different animal, because the power amp, once you plug that into a power amp, the power amp doesn't really start acting and feeling like a guitar amp until you've got the volume up to where the power
But
amp
that's
is
the
really
same
working.
with any head too,
Yeah,
right?
that's true. That's
So
true.
I have a question for you along, I think you answered this question.
If I
but-
did, I'm not answering it again, so fuck off.
Along these lines. That's my man. So one time Steve you had a SIN 1 rig set up. And I think you had a deliverance module, or maybe it was the 2CP, but you were monkeying with the voltage in the Synergy, and I freaked out at how much more dynamic and alive everything felt. So when you were explaining this, it made me think, oh, wait a minute. If a preamp power amp rig are independent in their, on their own, like, it seems to me like, and this is me just being completely clueless, there's not like a shortage in voltage for each of these units. So it would seem like that configuration would allow each component to operate at their chief efficiency and be quote unquote better. But we don't experience like that so much.
Yeah, better
Is any of this making any
yeah,
sense?
well, better is frequently not better.
Well, I know like guitar amps are, like
the
what
history
sounds
of the-
great,
the-
like
The history of amplifier development is littered with people that are fixing things that they fixed them to death.
But remember this voltage thing, and I've raved about it for 2 years since I heard you doing that.
I'd probably need a better refresher
You-
or another beer.
We should definitely do that. Just because beer's good food.
Well,
I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about it, so I don't want to go deeper into it. I don't know if it was like something that
it's kind of that your food comment sort of reminded me of Freddie King Somebody asked.
I tell people this story all the time.
Somebody asked Freddie King why he always drinks Bloody Marys, and his answer was, "It's got food in it."
I love that so much. It's got food in it. Oh man! But so a standalone power amp.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sound like an idiot here, but it all it has to do is it's one job, right?
Mm-hmm.
The standalone preamp only has to do its one job. It's
Mhm.
not sharing a power supply.
That's right.
So
Whoa.
is it that
Thank you.
we? Yeah. Do you want to try this coffee porter?
Yeah, baby.
This is my other favorite beer. Everybody, it's the Smog City, local to Los Angeles. Smog City Coffee Porter.
All you had to do was say coffee, and
I love this beer so much. There's some ice cube out there. But anyhow, I'm trying to ask you a question, but I'm not quite sure
I'm
how
trying to follow whatever it is that the hell you're trying to say.
It all has to do with this modification that you did where you upped the voltage on this particular unit, and I thought it just made everything come so much more alive. So then when we're talking about isolating components of an amplifier, it got me thinking like, well, wait a minute.
Oh, wait a minute.
Wouldn't this
Are
be
you
more-
talking about that screw around with the modular stuff?
Yeah,
Did you say that and it just went right in one of my...
I think so, but I'm trying to be coy because I don't know how much of that I'm supposed to say.
Yeah, well, you're not supposed to say any of it.
Oh, okay. Well,
But that's all right.
do you know what I'm talking
I know
about now?
exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And, well, there's certainly a sweet spot in the voltage at which the various gain stages in a preamp operate. And, cheers.
Try this.
Oh, just the smell of it. I don't even need to drink it.
This beer is insane to me. It's got the most three-dimensional coffee note in any beer I've had of this ilk.
Gang, friends, fellow countrymen, there isn't going to be another product out of this company ever again. Because I'm just going to go downtown with a big barrel of this and just sit by the Greyhound bus station
Ah, yes.
and inhale coffee porter for the rest of my miserable life.
I'm glad you feel the same.
But then again, that's just not a blanket statement that you can make because it's different for every topology.
Okay.
How many gain stages? What those each gain stage does? The entire intent of the design. That all of those things are in a state of flux, and so it's different for every product design, every amplifier design. It's different. That
That
sweet
makes
spot
sense.
is different.
And also, I would
So,
imagine.
so just jacking up the voltage on a particular thing is not going to make everything sound magically better. It can
Okay.
make things sound brittle. It could make things sound particularly awful, stiff. There's all kinds of ways that can go,
Okay. All right.
south on you.
This is good. This is what I didn't know because the only time that I had it shown to me, in A, B kind of format, like we're going to listen to it this way and play it, and then we're going to listen to it this way and play it. It was night and day, but like night and day good. But it was for the express purpose of improving that product that you were showing me. So it was like, yeah, this works with these particular components. Where I think, a lot of times where maybe we don't regard the independent preamp and power amp thing as iconic is, it's like, well, this company built this power amp and it's not necessarily optimized for this preamp that you're coupling with it,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
No, yeah, Mark, that's not what Joe was talking about. He's just talking about the relative within a particular product topology, the relatively assigned sweet spot of a particular preamp voltage. In fact, you can do an amplifier design where the preamp voltage could be higher than the power amp voltage. And there's a couple of ways to do that. And there are a couple of reasons why you might do that. It's not, you're not prevented from doing it just because the power supply is X and then everything decoupled from the main power supply to get to the preamp is less than X. That's not always the case. A case in point is the SIG-X preamp. It has its own independently regulated power supply, independent of what the power amp is doing. So, and then in order to get everything in the SIG-X, the clean channel, the medium gain channel, and the high gain channel, to get that, every one of those channels into its sweet spot, irregardless of what's going on in the power amp stage, it needed its own dedicated power supply, and then it needed to be regulated so that it could be intentionally unregulated at specific points in time. It's a crazy design, and it's why that's the only amplifier on the planet that behaves the way it does. And it's a very complex sort of operation to get all that to work properly. And every product that we've made since then incorporates some small aspect of that. There are a couple of different models, and actually one of the preamp modules has some of its topology borrowed from what was going on with the SIG-X. So it's just another little thing. It's just another little. It's just another little can in the refrigerator that has its own little behavior and fun aspect that, if used properly, can, you know, really raise your eyebrows, and if used improperly, can really raise eyebrows.
So years ago, JaVale McGee, he's a basketball player. He was playing for the Nuggets, and he was on the same team as Andre Iguodala. And JaVale was a very physically talented player who would make some questionable plays at times. If anybody's into basketball, he was on Shaqtin' the Fool like almost constantly with hilarious mistakes. And I remember Andre Iguodala was being interviewed about the team, and he was talking about JaVale, and he said, JaVale is the only guy that within the space of like 1 minute, he'll make a play and make you go, wow! And then turn around and make a play that you go, wow.
You know, you have to go for it. And going for it does not guarantee that the outcome is going to be spectacular. It just guarantees that there's going to be an outcome. And at least you're going to have tried to accomplish something. And you have to respect the fact that, well, at least he tried. There's people out there that are doing this, and there's this other guy that's just like going to the wall every time. And you see that a lot in sumo wrestling, where there'll be a sumo rikishi meaning a wrestler, the sumo wrestler, they're called rikishi. A particular rikishi will just like blow everybody away for 2 or 3 tournaments in a row, and then they'll just suck eggs for an entire season. Because it's not just about technique and training. There are cycles, and it's a lifestyle. It's not just a game to them. It's a lifestyle, and in life, things happen. In your family, in your organization, a lot of things you can be in a groove.
And it's hard to win.
It's hard to win.
Because you're training your ass off, but so is everybody else.
So is everybody else. And it doesn't. And the other interesting thing about sumo is that there's no weight class.
Mm.
So
Really?
yeah, yeah. There's no weight or size class.
Wow.
So a one rikishi that is 6'2" and weighs 180 kilo. You do the math. I'll wait. Anybody takers? 180 kilo.
I don't know. I'm not
370 pounds. Okay, so there's one guy that's 6'2" and almost 400 pounds wrestling one of my favorite rikishi. His name is Midori Fuji. He's about my height and he weighs 117 kilos, so 240 pounds. He's just like 80 pounds more than me and about my height. And he picked up the 6'2", 400-pound guy and flipped him upside down on his head.
I bet his thighs are just like this big.
They're not. He's a
Really?
little, tight, muscular guy he's a thinker.
Mm.
He's got a strategy and he's got an attitude a mile long. A pleasant attitude, but he goes in.
Bring him on the Malcontents.
I would love to.
Alyssa,
He goes in and he assesses the
look what
situation
we're drinking.
and he goes for it. And sometimes he pulls off these spectacular defeats of more experienced, bigger, tougher, heavier guys. And you have to watch it 3 or 4 times to figure out what the hell just happened. Because he's there, this big guy grabs him, and you can't even see him for a second. And then all of a sudden, the big guy went upside down and is on his back. And the little guy's going, yeah. And it's fantastic. So there is that thing where you go all the way, and it doesn't necessarily, that same guy, he tried that same technique on another guy, and he ended up getting thrown 3 rows out of the ring.
Oh, that's interesting.
You know,
That's interesting.
It's just the luck of the draw.
Huh.
It's the game, the vibe, the crowd. There's so much chemistry going on in a sumo tournament that I'm totally addicted to it because I'm watching all these philosophies and life forces all converge on this place. And you never know what's going to happen. It's not like you've got the statistics for, the batting averages of blah, blah, blah. It's none of that. You just there'll be a guy that you think, oh, I don't really care for that guy. And then the next tournament, you're like,
He's my favorite.
this guy is showing some stuff that he wasn't showing before.
Yeah.
And now I'm rooting for him 100%.
Yeah.
And it's just a fascinating thing to watch. But I'm not going off the rails with your comment. It's like there is the kind of person that goes and takes the risk. And they're the person that's going to get slammed on their face one time, and then they're going to get escorted out of the ring on all of their teammates' shoulders.
JaVale McGee was not that guy.
Yeah, he wasn't. He was.
But
He
that's
was.
another story
He
for
was just.
another.
He was just the Tasmanian devil.
Oh man. Yeah. I
Well,
don't
there's
know
something
what
to be said for that, too.
What is a rum Collins? What is a rum Collins? Somebody please tell me. And then Lou. There is no Cyclops on the stacks. However, check this out. It's on the floor. We got one. Cyclops in the house. or here, hold on. Honest. It's live. Not Memorex.
Yeah, although it didn't exactly work out. What I was trying to do was use it backwards and use it as an AB box for the guitars.
Alyssa, no. A rum and club soda with citrus. Okay. Collins, I've never heard of that, but
Fuzzy lemonade. Of course, I had no idea what a fuzzy lemonade is. But.
well, this is not that. So you dig this?
Yeah, it's wonderful.
You know, we've never had beer on the show. We've always had cocktails, for the most part. Where I think the first year I was drinking scotch every show. But, so we thought this week we would drink some beer. So
Yeah.
I brought some beer.
Yeah.
I said, Steve, I'll turn you on to some stuff. I'll turn you on to my favorite beers.
Yeah. That was a good call.
Before we talk about guitars here, which we're going to get to very shortly, do any amps use a cathode follower as V1 in the preamp?
No.
No?
One of the early pit bulls has got a it's got a topology whose name I can't remember right at the moment. What it's called. It's two triodes cascaded. They're stacked on top of each other in series, and they basically form a low source impedance function like they're kind of a cross between a cathode follower and a gain stage, where they actually have gain where a cathode follower has none, and it has a low source impedance like a cathode follower. So I've tried every preamp and power tube topology known to man in my experiments and trying things that would work as a guitar amp and wouldn't work as a guitar amp, and just as many things that did work did not work. Actually, I take it back. The GP3 has a mu follower. Thank you, Mark. Essentially a mu follower, a variation of a mu follower. The GP3 has got a cathode follower in the first stage because it's effectively not the first stage. It's the GP3 has an effects loop at the very front end of the gain stage of the preamp, which was intended. It was intended so that you would plug the guitar straight into the front of the unit.
Yeah.
And then you could put pedals in a pedal drawer. It was intended to be a rack mount preamp, and it was assumed that you were going to have a pedal
pedals
drawer
go in front of the gain?
and that where you,
The
yeah.
preamp gain? Interesting.
Well, when you plug a guitar into a distortion pedal and into
Yeah.
the amp, you're putting a pedal in front of the gain stages.
Right.
Okay, so if you have a whole pedal board, then a lot of times you'll use a buffer.
Mm-hmm.
Guitar, buffer, into the pedals, into the amp.
Yeah.
So what I did with the GP3 was I put a cathode follower in the very front. So when you plug it in, the first thing the guitar sees is a cathode follower that feeds a low level input stage pedal loop, assuming that you're rack mounting this and that you've got a pedal
Right.
drawer.
Right.
And that would come back in, and then it would feed a normal gain stage after that. So it had basically it had built-in valvulator one in the front,
Interesting. Huh.
which was a tube-based low impedance buffer. So that had that. The now that you mention it, see, if you ask a question that's off the wall, that's something that I've forgotten about or hadn't thought about for a long time, the answer will bubble up. The Nelson amp has got that in it.
No shit.
Yeah.
Oh, where is it?
It's
It's
in
not
somewhere.
here. It's around here.
Oh, it's over there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The Nelson rack mount head has got a cathode follower in the first stage because of the same reason. It's got a pedal loop in the front because it was built to go in a rack system. And I wanted them to have a good sounding tube buffer in there so that it wouldn't sound thin and lifeless when you put pedals between that.
Did you
and
know what the specifications of the rig was when you did that? Or was that just an extra bell or whistle that you threw in thinking maybe they'll use this and I had the idea for it. So
I would. That was. It was in the development stages of the pit bull, so I just figured, you know what, that's probably going to be a feature of the pit bull.
oh, okay.
And then it ended up not being a feature because there's a lot of things about that amp that I thought would be normal features that still to this day people go, how would you use a thing like that? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to fluff my own feathers, but there's a lot of things that I'm really surprised about today that still make people's eyes cross, and we don't do some of those things because they're just too out there. On the other hand, well, we just get a shit ton of questions about the power station and how it works and why it works and what is it doing and why. And there's just a ton of that. I'm learning more and more and more about what people don't understand about the rigs as we go along.
Isn't that crazy? How
It's
many years
crazy.
into this?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think a lot of that had to do with, at the time that I was doing the development of this stuff, I was dealing exclusively with guitar players that were trying to outdo their peers in any way possible.
Right, it was the 80s. It was
It was
the
the
arms
80s.
race with gear
It was
and
a
with
total
chops and
arms
with- yeah,
race.
Yeah.
And so I fit in there really nicely because, you want it to kick like a howitzer, but you want to be able to reload it like, like a little semi-automatic in the field. Okay, let's try to combine those two things. So there's stuff about.
You know what's funny to me though is when you tell the story, like a lot of the things that you did back then to improve the amp was to pull these mods out and just make the
Yeah.
amp stock.
Yeah, see, I was in development. I'm one kind of person, and in respect to designs that went before us, I'm kind of protective.
Is it fair to say that what it is like with your designs, you have an idea of what can exist, whereas the repair guy, you're going, well, I know what that does. It's already been defined.
Yeah,
We just need to make that do what it was designed to do the best.
right.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense.
and it's easy to overdo that. So Nick Nielsen asks a great question.
Well, let's get on to that after while you're answering this, I want to throw this out to everyone. Look at this comment that Amanda made when we were talking about the rum Collins. What do you say? Anybody who wants to partake, throw your recipe for a Phil Collins in the chat. Let's see what people come up with.
All right.
The Phil Collins.
Yeah.
What would it be?
Yeah,
I really want to know.
and then we'll make them the next episode. We'll taste test them for you.
Oh, I love that.
See who ends up in the hospital first.
Okay. Well, we'll see what people come up with. All right. So, you want me to read this one? Can
Yeah,
you see it?
yeah.
Okay, so this is from Nicholas. Because everybody who showed up in the last, 20 minutes, we were talking about Dumble a little bit earlier. So Nicholas is asking on the Dumble thing, Steve, what's your take on designing a circuit to accomplish a specific goal versus tuning an amp to a specific player? Is tuning an amp even a real thing? Background to that being, for those who don't know, is, kind of the lore is that Dumble would have you come over to his shop and listen to you play and then build an amp for you based on your playing style, right? That's what everybody has said.
Mm-hmm.
So, would you like to opine?
Well, why I thought it was a great question is because we had a little quick discussion before the show started.
Scott, you killed me. That's the Phil Collins. I don't care anymore.
That's pretty good.
High five.
So we were talking about settings before the show
Oh
started.
yeah, we were. Yeah, yeah. Should I
Yes, please.
do that? I saw a very cool video with Tom Bukovic, the great guitar player. I think he lives in Nashville, and he was just talking about his gear, and he was kind of joking about people looking at his pedal board and his amps and like, I need to get your settings and copy the settings. And he was just remarking like, what a weird thing. He's like, there are no settings.
There's no settings.
There's like, pull up the track and we start turning knobs until it sounds right for the song.
Yeah.
Like you look, you listen and analyze the track for where are frequencies missing. That's where my guitar goes for this particular song or this particular gig in this particular room. That's how we set shit up. It's not, here, let's mark on my amplifier where all the controls go and expect that to work in every freaking situation in every room, right?
Right.
So that's what I had said before the show.
Right. Okay. And now I'm going to add another angle of that, and that is, you know, my longtime partner in craziness, Buzz Featon,
Oh, Buzz.
would come to my shop, of course, gacked out of his mind, but on his way to go to a Bette Midler rehearsal or something, Ricky Lee Jones rehearsal for a tour or whatever, with just bursting with ideas about how to dial in his amp. So I know him. I know how he plays. I don't have to sit there and ask him, play 20 questions with him about where he's trying to go. You don't do that. I don't do that anyway. I mean, I get into the way people play because of the way people play. So, and I appreciate the way people play, and I hear them and I go, ah. And I could think of something that I have that would fit them pretty well, but do I take that and then I go, okay, here's my basic suit jacket. Now try it on and I'll take it into the shoulders and we'll do a little of this and maybe the cuffs are a little short, we'll lengthen those and blah, blah, blah. And then maybe it doesn't need this pocket. I don't do that. I see where how this player approaches his instrument, and I glean from that how much or how little involvement with their gear they want or need to get where they're trying to go. And so Buzz comes to me and he's like, starts suggesting all this stuff, and he brings his amp over, and to me it's just a fun respite from all the mind-numbing dumb repairs that I'm doing all day long, all week long, all month long, all year long.
Galen-Kruger.
Yeah, 100 Galley-Krugers in a week, you know. Yeah. Silver Jubilees that just, like, you turn them on and your smoke comes billowing out of a brand new amp for no particular reason, and then you find out the reason and you go, oh God, that was really stupid. That kind of thing. So when he comes around and goes, hey man, and I have the opportunity to just sort of like listen to what he's saying and then keep massaging the thing until until he's going, you're on the right track. Yeah, we're on the same page now. Blah 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 blah, and spend 4 hours doing that. He goes, this is gonna be great. I'm gonna go to rehearsal, and people are gonna be so blown away. Blah 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 blah, and at 9 o'clock the next morning, he goes, "Hey, can I bring the amp over right now? Yeah, okay."
I've been up all night.
He's been up all night. He comes over. He brings the amp back, and he says, "Okay, so what do we need to fine tune?" He says, "No, I need to take all that shit out. It sounds horrible." And that is a perfect expression of where that mindset takes you, which is down a giant fucking rabbit hole from which you have to extricate yourself and get back to where is square one again. And I went down that road with him a couple of times, and with another player once or twice, and in both cases, they were just thrilled to death when they left, and they morphed from thrilled to death to wanting a piece of my ass
Really?
by the next day. And
Wow.
and I know another guy that
Huh.
that does repair work. He's really good. His name is Bob Dixon, and he's got a place called Amp Hole, and I refer a lot of people to him because we don't do like repairs. I refer those to people like him. But he told me, we had this conversation one day, this similar conversation. He had a similar experience with Neil Young, working on the
The
amp,
deluxe
the deluxe.
with the Whizzer.
Yeah, with the Whizzer. And he basically told me what he did to the amp, and he basically just sort of tightened it up and cleaned it up and got it all dialed in for the guy. And Neil was, when he got the amp back, he was like telling everybody, singing Bob's praises, and he went berserk. He was just like, "You're my guy from now on until eternity," and just heaping praise on the guy. And then when he got to San Francisco for the sound check the next day, the guitar tech was calling Bob saying, "You got to drop everything you're doing and get on a plane at your expense and fly up here and fix this fucking piece of shit. It's god awful." In that amount of time, he went from the savior of my lifetime to this horrible piece of crap that ruined my amp. And Bob smartly just said, "I'm not doing that. You out of your mind?" And
Wow. Good for him.
so he basically said, "No, you're not going to treat me like that, and I'm not going to allow you to treat me like that."
I love that.
And
I
then,
love Neil, but fuck that.
and then it turned out that a cable was not connected properly, and
I was thinking it's like bad
it
power
was
or
some
something like that.
stupid thing. But there was no apology forthcoming or anything like that. It's just the tech sort of meekly contacted him later and said, "Oh yeah, sorry you had to like deal with that, you know. It was just a minor stupid thing." But Bob said from that day on, "Okay, you crossed the line. You already crossed that line, and I'm never going to give you the opportunity to cross that line again." But that's stuff that just happens in normal everyday life. But when you subject yourself to, when you give somebody the opportunity to unload all of their frustrations on you over something that they ask you to do and it went awry, that is a thing that you never want to find yourself in a situation again once it happens. So it's pretty intimidating, because you've got somebody that you respect and admire giving you hell over something that you know is just a dumbass stupid thing, but you're going to get dragged through it until the artist reaches this point of realization, if they do, and sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
I mean, we get all the time. We get, "Hey, I just got a brand new power station. All my friends said this is the shit, and blah blah blah, and I read all the reviews and blah blah blah. And mine doesn't work, and oh god damn it, I just got it, and had all these expectations, and And then 4 hours later, "Oh, sorry, it was a bad chord. Disregard my last email. Click, gone."
Yeah.
Totally unloaded in one email.
Learn a lot about folks in those situations.
Yeah, but there's just a lot. There are a lot of players out there. There are a lot of people out there. There are a lot of power stations out there. There's a lot of experiences like that. You just the idea that you're going to dial in an amp today that's going to be specific to this player based on you meet a person, you hang out with him for a few hours. I'm going to make the ideal amp for them? Absolutely not. That's just fantasy talk. It's fantasy talk.
Look, this is
People
great.
artists aren't that simplistic. Amplifiers are not that terribly dialed in, and they're and to Bukvik's comment about settings, no. You're not going to put, well, hey, I only play through amplifiers that have mustard caps in them. As soon as I hear that from somebody, I'm like, do you have any more of that that chocolate beer? I'm just like, I'm way tuned out. All I'm is,
Right.
what was that, the guy that was impersonating Sinatra?
I don't know.
Pops and clicks, baby. Pops and clicks.
I don't know what this is.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
the Saturday Night Live bit where the guy's
Okay.
impersonating Sinatra and somebody's trying to talk to him and he's just like hearing static, and as he responds to he responds to the person trying to impress him. Pops and clicks, baby. Pops and clicks.
Okay, we got we got some cool submissions for this Phil Collins.
I saw something about cucumbers.
Oh yeah, look at this.
Joe Pascapon, no.
Oh, Joe Piscopo?
Joe Piscopo.
Oh yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was him. I think
He
it was
used
the
to
other
imitate
guy.
Sinatra.
He did Sinatra.
Yeah.
Boy, he took a lot of heat for that too. But it wasn't him. It was the other guy.
Okay, let's imagine drinking this.
The later guy, the guy whose wife murdered him.
Oh, Phil Hartman.
Phil Hartman. He's the one that did the. Oh, and it was like that political roundtable TV show in the 80s, 90s.
Like Crossfire or something.
Yeah, one of those things. And they had Sting, who was impersonating Billy Idol, and then they had the girl on there doing Sinead O'Connor, and
I can't do it.
yeah.
Can you do it?
No, I can't do that.
I can't do it.
Sting did it great.
That's funny. All right, imagine drinking this.
Yeah, Sinatra called Sinead O'Connor. Zip it up, cue ball.
Ooh, ouch.
He was brutal.
All right, cucumber vodka, lime juice, simple syrup, chartreuse dash, cranberry bitters, and soda.
That sounds like an awful lot of work.
I would try that. A Phil Collins is a Tom Collins through this SSL top-back mic compressor. All right, well, we cannot drink that. Gin, lemon. Oh, yes. Studio.
I'm still not over that rum drink.
Oh, my God. Okay, here we go. Alyssa, the bartender. So the first alcohol ever made was from fermented rice. So I would say sake, club soda, lime, and simple syrup. Because that fermented rice spirit was the genesis.
Ah.
Well done. But how would that taste? I'm up for it, man.
All right.
Maybe we should sample them all. And then everybody's going to start taking bets for how long I'll be sleeping on your floor again. Oh, gross. A Gigi Allen? How do we get on making a Gigi Allen?
Ugh.
I don't want to know about
I
that.
don't
Yeah,
even want to
exactly.
know.
Yeah, you guys, you're right. It's exactly what they'd be. Bad news. Bad news.
G.G. Allen, man.
Oh man, you know there's video out there, if anybody cares to see it, of him running around town on the last afternoon of his life. The last gig he did, and then the gig getting shut down. It's like in an auto garage, I think in San Francisco.
I know what you're talking about.
And the gig gets shut down because he's doing his typical crap. And the video, it's like somebody carrying around a home camcorder and just following him, kind of running around on the street. And he died later that night. Oh, the McLaughlin group. Yeah,
McLaughlin
that's right.
group, yeah.
That was on PBS.
Yeah, and Steve and Edie were were like sucking up to him like it was sycophants. It was hilarious.
Oh man. Well, you want to talk about Strats, Steve?
It's I mean, look at the time. We're gonna like piss it all away or what?
What are we doing here?
Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, who knows which Cream song that is? Jack Bruce is a fucking genius. I think it was on was that on Disraeli Gears or was it on Fresh Cream?
I do not know. But we are going to. Oh, I use the middle pickup on Strats. So let's talk about these guitars.
We had done a show that was really unusual in that we had subject matter all picked out that we were going to discuss a certain thing, and somehow we just like went completely off the rails. And I don't know, it's so uncharacteristic for us to do a thing like that. So I don't know what really happened there, but that show was also called A Tale of Two Strats, if I recall correctly. And
No, it was because it wasn't two Strats. It was my Strat and your Junior. It was an old guitar. Yeah.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay, so and we were going to get into that, and we ended up getting to the end of the show and went, what happened to the rest of the show? And I know that's never happened on our show before, so it was so unusual. But
Well, let me also say this. A thing that we have coming up, we're going to make some more video content about this kind of thing, is this idea about tone production and where it comes from. And someone had made a comment on one of our recent videos about them just really liking the sound that Steve gets out of his amplifiers. And so we're planning a bunch of stuff where we're going to get into that in a more in-depth way. We thought, maybe we could just start off by talking about the story about these particular guitars and then listening to how they sound in each of our hands. As in, we'll play that one, you play it a little bit, I'll play it a little bit, and we'll just see how it sounds, because we're playing through the same rig. Just
and
pass it back and forth.
And one of you mentioned that about Hendrix going in and trying a bunch of different guitars. Well, that's just what I've always done, is go in. Well, I've done one or two things. I'm going to go in a store and I'm going to buy this. I'm going to buy this kind of guitar. I want to learn how to play this kind of guitar. I've never had one of those. I want to have one of those. I'll go try a bunch of them. And the other side of my personality is walk into a store, go like this on the stand, on the wall, and go
Yeah.
And I can tell you honestly that the going and checking 10 or 15 of them and going, yeah, I think this is the one, is the failure mode. It's like destined to not be the satisfactory exploration that you thought it was going to be. And the other one is that thing that just drags you to it. You don't even know why you got dragged to it. You just did. And then you bring that home, and somehow it has a staying power that you really still can't put your finger on. And I just always thought that I was not a Strat player and I would never be a Strat player until I found this. And then I thought, well, it had to be just because it's the best Strat I've ever heard. And then I play yours and I go, I really like this. It has these things that mine doesn't have. And so it isn't that either, is it? I mean, it's just...
No, because I have the exact same experience. I was playing mine earlier, and I think you played it, and then we switched yours, and I went, oh, mine sucks. Yours sounds awesome. And then we did the same thing, and I think you're going, wait, yours is awesome.
Yeah.
I don't like... So...
So it's really the grass is greener mentality, and it's the same thing as the concept of, well, it's all in the settings, you know, or
So what's
you got to get the plexi with the end bells on the bell covers on the output transformer that are stamped a certain way, and all this kind of crap. No, it's nothing to do with any of that. It's just,
Unless that makes you happy. You know?
I mean, if you chase after that, but I don't chase after things anymore. I'm struck by things, and I'm inspired by things, and I'm surprised by things, and I go, I like that, and then they don't become. I don't know that they become paradigm changers necessarily all the time, because the Esquire has been a paradigm changer for me 3 or 4 times now, and the only thing that changed on it was how the frets are dressed at the edge of the fret, at the shoulder of the fretboard, or the tuning gears weren't quite that good, just little sort of things.
Yeah, and that guitar is interesting because I don't think any one of us would play that guitar and go, that's the best example of an Esquire you'll ever find.
No,
But you play it and
you'll
like,
pick
this
it up
is
and
a
go,
great...
"Oh, this thing is heavy." And
Yeah, but it's just like, this is a really cool tool. It's got a cool vibe and it just sounds right everywhere along.
yeah,
The-
and 2
the
or 3
volume-
different people. Buzzy opened up the case the first time. Okay, what do we got here? He was
Yeah, yeah,
impressed.
yeah.
It's like, we got a piece of shit that I threw together from junk parts.
It kind
And
is
he's
a
like-
piece of shit, except it's an awesome piece of shit.
Yeah.
You know? So, first of all, what is this guitar?
It's a guitar that shoots my picks out of my fingers for me on
Yeah.
a regular basis.
Yeah.
This is a 19
It's a 56, I think.
1999 era. Let's see, where was I when I got this? I was in.
Wheels of Fire.
As you said, it's on Wheels of Fire. Oh, okay. As you said, on Wheels of Fire.
Nico-chan.
It's a distinctly Jack Bruce exploration. It's wonderful. Give me a second. 2000, early 2000. Guitar Center, 56 Relic.
And it's not super relict, which is nice.
It's not super relict. It's got a flatter radius than a 56.
Yeah.
And it's got bigger frets than a 56.
So was that a Guitar Center
That's
special?
a Guitar Center special
Okay.
request. In fact, if you take the neck off, it's got GC stamped in the end of the butt of
Okay.
the butt of the neck.
And then is it custom shop pickups?
Nope,
What came with it?
I don't know.
But is it stock the way you bought it?
It's totally stock.
Okay. So 3-way switch.
3-way switch. It came with a 5-way switch
You
in the
could put
case
in
that
there
you
if you
could put
wanted.
in there,
Yeah.
and it's still sitting in the little plastic bag in the case.
So it looks
with
like
the strap.
alder.
I do this all the time. Alder, ash. I don't know the difference.
Oh, okay.
Honestly, don't know the difference.
I'm thinking it's alder. Like there's just not much. It's pretty plain.
Pretty plain.
Looks like alder.
Yeah, yeah.
And the neck profile is pretty C-ish. It's a big.
yeah, it's got a.
It's not like a no caster. It's not enormous, but it's nice. It's got some good heft on it.
It's a tiny bit of V-ishness on the back, but not much.
Nothing like this.
No, nothing like that.
It also seems like the nut might be a little wider on that guitar.
This nut might have, I don't know. Was the nut changed? I don't think so. I don't remember. I don't think I've really done anything to this except just enjoy it and play it.
And so you first played it at GC. It was a new guitar at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, a friend of mine that I described what I was looking for in the Strat. And my description was, I wanted to sound like cats fighting at 4 o'clock in the morning outside your window really loudly and somebody banging garbage like can lids together. That's verbatim what I told him I was looking for.
Okay.
And his response was, I know exactly what you're saying. And he called me a week later and goes, I got it. Come down. I'm at Guitar Center Sherman Oaks, and I went down there and I played it and I went, how did you know? And he goes, I know what you're talking about. I know where you're coming from. I got it. And I went, well, you got it. And it just has this sort of, the way I describe the sound of it is like cats fighting at 4 o'clock in the morning and banging garbage can lids together. It just has this sort of raw, spanky, attitude-y quality to it that I can't really assign a value that anybody else would be able to translate into something useful. It's just, when I play it, I just want to beat on it. Because I enjoy beating on it because it responds well to being beat on.
It doesn't have any errant, harsh, like it has that crangy thing,
Yeah.
but it's not, there's never like that
There's-
transient, like,
There's nothing painful about this
No.
guitar.
I always hear this guitar as a woody experience.
It's woody.
Huge
It does,
wood.
the mids don't get in the way of anything. It's got a brightness and a spanky quality, but it's not a painful, obtrusive, spanky quality. It's just there. It's got
Yeah.
the right amount of all these different fun little elements. It's got this nice big, robust depth, although it's not particularly resonant. I mean, the Nelson guitar I have now is like 4 times more resonant than this thing.
Sure.
But just like the Esquire, this has just got a quality that makes you just want to get into it and play it
Yeah.
and do the Johnny Winter thing where you just hit a big boner and go, yeah, baby, you know, not like ooh, like I meant to do that.
Totally.
And you get away with it because it sounds so good. You know, you can't. When Johnny Winter would hit a boner, and he would scream out, "Yeah, baby!"
Yeah.
And you went back and go, "What did he play that got him so excited?" And you play it back, and it's this raging clunker.
Yeah. Huge clam.
But you don't think it's a huge clam. You think, I got to figure out how to play that, so that I can go, "Yeah, baby!" every time I play that riff.
Yeah. You know the old adage, like, you know, if you play a mistake, like, repeat that shit like
Yeah.
you meant it.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
and then it becomes, it's like, you know. So let's listen to it a little bit.
All right.
We have to turn off the talking mics to listen to it?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
So pardon me in my dishpan hands, because I'm way out of practice, but I don't know, in another circumstance I might play entirely differently, but every time, with this sound that I'm getting right now, all I want to do is just play all my favorite Hendrix riffs. It just comes out that way. Of course, I really like Turn Still from the Sun, but, and pardon my always sloppy, imprecise playing, but
Well, any Strat tuned down a half step sounds proper.
yeah.
Right.
So when we got together and Joe brought his over, and I said I'm detuned to E flat, and he goes, really? And I went, okay. So this guitar, the way it's set up, it's not going to work to tune it back up to natural. So I figured, okay, fine. That's going to be its behavior the way it is, and this is going to be its behavior the way it is. And then shortly after that, Joe tunes his down a half a step, and I understand why he did that, because it sort of makes the comparison a little easier for you guys to hear, but I was kind of surprised by that, honestly. Nevertheless,
You were surprised that I dropped it?
yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
Yeah. So somebody asked what I'm playing through. We're playing through the Deliverance 2 Plus, and the two settings that I'm switching back and forth between using the little foot switch down here. You can barely see it. Just below the Cyclops, there is there's the Deliverance foot switch box sitting down there. So we're switching between the more and less mode, or the solo mode and the non-solo mode. So in the solo mode, the master volume is kind of down, and the gain controls are kind of high, because this is not a particularly hot pickup guitar. There's pretty stockish pickups. And then in the less mode, the master volume is up past 12 o'clock. And anybody that has played a Deliverance goes, master volume at 12 o'clock, are you nuts? Well, but the 2 Plus turns off gain 2, so it's not that much gain. So we have enough gain for the guitar to sound lively through the amp, but then we have the master volume turned way up, so that the power amp starts to add its saturation, and that's going into a Power Station 2 with a fairly reasonable setting, nothing really expressive going on there too much. The presence and depth controls are just sort of at medium levels. The toggle switches are in the middle position. It's set for 16 ohms. That is feeding a PLIR. So the PLIR is plugged into the output of the power station, and then the
I know what you're laughing at.
and then the PLIR output is going through, I think it's the Deliverance 412 cab model in the PLIR, and then that's feeding the stream. There's a little bit of a slapback in there, and that is, I don't know if you can see it, but there's an immerse. I basically.
It's dangling.
Yeah, I basically strung an immerse by the neck up there. It's just hanging by its cables, just for fun. So I lynched an immerse. It's plugged into the effects loop of the power station.
Man, Eric Johnson would not approve.
Yeah,
Or maybe he would approve.
He probably would.
Maybe that's how you get the best
So
sound.
anyway, when I play it, my natural tendency is to go to these low gain and medium gain sort of spanky kinds of things. It's not the guitar that I play punk rock on. Now, when Joe plays it, he plays Joe, and he sounds like Joe on it. He sounds entirely differently. So, to wit.
It's just like super, super, super woody.
You
to
said
me.
you said Woody.
I said wood.
Let me
I
see
said
this.
wood.
Now you were playing the solo on the bridge on the neck pickup.
Yeah,
It's on the neck pickup?
I think so. Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think so. I don't know. I'm just as buzzed as you, buddy.
You're just gonna have to forgive my dishpan hands, but see, here's the thing. This is my impression of playing that guitar.
Uh-huh.
If when the guy that found me this one, if I'd have gone down there and played it and it sounded and felt like that, that would have been this. It's got the same recipe in different elements,
Right.
you know, and the things that excels at, to me, makes me want to play those kind of riffs, like the Freedom riff. This one, when you play the Freedom riff. It's bouncy and springy like that, but it's got a little bit more meat in the mids, so it doesn't sound too trashy. It's
Yeah,
still
yeah.
just as fun to play either way, but
Right.
note value wise, I think that particular riff excels at that. This one, with the neck pickup, with the cleaner, prettier stuff that you're doing, this excels at that. And of course, if you're going more the Stevie Ray Vaughan route, this brings out a little bit more of that. Although I'm not so sure that, not to say that it does it better than that. That it's just a different flavor of that.
Well, and plus the other thing is too, settings. Like we're playing both these guitars without, moving any knobs. Like I think in general, one thing that we can say is that for sure the pickups on your guitar are a little weaker.
Yeah.
So there's a little more of that wood thing
Mhm,
kind of
mhm.
coming through with the settings that we have right now. The story of this guitar, everybody's like laughing about the fretboard. Well, you might look so great, not look so great either if you were almost 70 years old. This is a 1957 Stratocaster.
Actually, the frets on that are really beat because I tried to play a high bend and it choked out on the frets.
Oh,
That's partly because the frets choked and partly because I've got total dishpan hands. And thanks whoever, I forgot who mentioned, Steve, about the Hocus Pocus riff. I love that riff. You wouldn't believe how much I have to practice that to get it even passably bad, let alone anything approaching good. But I have not had the opportunity to practice. And even knowing that we were going to do a show like this and fiddle around on guitars and stuff like that, I got to practice. And then 2 minutes before the show, I go, yeah, I want to just, just before we did the show today, I got out of the shower and I went, I'm just going to suck because I have no calluses left. I need to practice again. When am I ever going to get to fucking practice? Never. I read an interesting, just little blurb about the acoustic guitar player guy who is amazing, whose name I can't remember. He's the Australian guy. He had a brother that recently passed away. He just plays the most fantastic, amazing.
Not Tommy Emmanuel.
Yeah. His quote was, the string squeak when you're playing an acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
He says, his secret for how to get rid of that? Play that riff 1,000 fucking times
I
until
was
you
gonna
get
say.
it right so that you don't squeak the strings.
That sounds like his MO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is a guy that when you watch him play, how did he get so fantastic? He played that song 1,000 times to get it right. That was his practice. Not I've played 1,000 gigs and got it right. I played it 1,000 times to get it right before I walked on stage. That's the mentality of the level of dedication that guy has to his instrument. So you watch that. And speaking of acoustics, I heard a Dan Hicks and the Hot Licks song on the radio last week. I'm dreaming of you tonight. I think it was. I'll dream of you tonight. What it never occurred to me how much Dan Hicks's music rides on Django Reinhardt until I heard that song, and I thought, here's a guy that was doing Django Reinhardt before anybody knew who the hell Django Reinhardt was. But and all he did was take that Django Reinhardt style and superimpose ridiculously hilarious, silly lyrics on top of them. But his music was at this level of perfection for a guy who was really a punk ass in real life. I mean, they would be playing this really sophisticated music. And if you ever heard Dan Hicks and the Hot Licks, listen to the background singers. And I was good friends with one of the background singers, and we used to talk about that level of dedication to get all those little parts just right and how much they worked on those. And they would bring this really well rehearsed set of really finely executed music to a club, and they would start playing, and some heckler would start going after him. And what did Dan do? He put his guitar out down in the middle of the song and went on the audience and went right after the fucking guy. and just start beating on him,
Wow.
and then get back up on the stage and pick up the verse right where you left off.
Wow.
So I mean, there's
That's one way to
different
do it.
there's different levels of dedication to your art, of course.
Yeah.
You know, but anyway,
So guys, this guitar, it's,
back to Joe's guitar.
it's a body only refin. So
Oh.
it was originally it would have been Sunburst, but whoever refinished it had the foresight to not touch the trim cavity, and you can't see it here. I don't know if you can see at least a little bit of it, but underneath the spring claw, let's see, you kind of like underneath here, penciled in there, the body date is December of '56.
Oh, look. Oh, when you pulled it back a little bit, you could see it very clearly. Pull back a little bit and then tip it back. Yeah, right there. You see that?
Sorry,
Yeah.
everything's like,
Yeah, I can see it from
Yeah,
here if you tip
underneath
the
that.
guitar back a little bit so that the light goes into the cavity. Yeah. Tip it
yeah,
back.
you can kind of
Yeah.
see it.
Tip it back the other direction. Right there. Right there.
Yeah, so there, and
Yeah.
then the neck
You see
date
that?
is January of '57. So this was a January of '57 Strat. Very tail end of '56, beginning
Wow.
of '57. And so the only thing, well, the things that have been changed on there are like the great things to have been changed on a vintage instrument. So
That is heavy. That's a heavy Strat for
The,
that period of time.
really, I don't think so. But so the body's been refinned, which knocks the value down, which is great, because there's no way I could own this if it was original.
Yeah.
And then it's been refretted.
Mm.
And I had to replace the volume pot, even though I have the original one. So, and then there's a 5-way in here, but the pickups are original.
So you're basically
These
saying you
pots-
butchered the shit out of it. Right?
Yeah. You don't know this, but there used to be a Floyd on here. I routed out everything. Yeah, so I've owned this guitar for 20 years now,
Mm.
and it's mighty fine.
Additional cost of 5%.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, I remember those old Fender catalogs where there was this sort of reasonable charge for a solid color, and I always used to wonder, why is a solid color Strat more expensive than the Sunburst? The Sunburst is the more sophisticated finish, but the answer was they were all Sunburst. The solid color custom ones, they just put the solid color on top of the Sunburst.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in person, guys, this is like, I mean, it continues to fade, but it was more of a blue than a green.
Mm.
When I'm looking at it on the monitor, I'm like, yeah, it definitely has kind of a green tinge on the screen, but is it hitting you as blue here?
No, it's definitely got a sort of a washed out seafoam kind of vibe.
Yeah, it wasn't originally like that.
Mm-mm.
So, I mean, it continues to age. But
No, I think it looks good that way.
yeah, it's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, because it's sort of almost, it has the sort of enough of a creamish vibe there that it goes well with the cream color, the pickups and the knob.
And you know, a really cool thing, feel this contour cut. I always remember Yngwie saying on the early Strats, this is so thin you could cut cheese with it
Oh yeah.
and feel it there.
So
on
this is
one.
this is what supposedly, this is a 56 Rolex, so supposedly a copy of a 56, and that cutaway is much thicker.
Yeah, and feel that one.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
original one. Isn't that interesting?
I don't know if I'd cut cheese with it, but
You're always cutting the trees.
yeah.
Yeah, you think, Jesse? Throw some EMGs in there?
A quarter pounder, dude.
A quarter pounder. Put some EMG humbuckers in here. A couple 81s.
Yeah, Joe, that was a joke. Okay.
So yeah, man. And then we are gonna do some more experiment stuff with just tone production. And you are actually gonna be in some of these videos, whether you know it or not. We're gonna put you in them. What do you think of that?
I want to mess around with this a little more for a second.
Okay.
You know what's interesting about it is it's got the mid range on this. You can get away with playing the early cream stuff because it's got the amp has got a little bit more gain.
It's gainier. It's gainier than your
yeah,
guitar.
Yeah, so that together with the amp, you can get that sort of mid-range compression thing that allows you to sort of pull the cream stuff off a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's just a blast to play. And it's like a lot of guitars. When you pick it up and play it, it makes you, I mean, you may have a style and you play the way you play and you play the stuff that you're used to playing and enjoy playing, but it does shift you into a different bit of a paradigm when you play a guitar that inspires you a different way than the guitar that you normally play inspires you to do. So you color everything that you normally do with this different approach because the guitar suggests that to you.
Yeah.
So I can play all sort of the same kind of riffs that I play on mine, but they morph a little bit because there's the things that make you transition from, and I'm all about the transition. Everything I do is about the transition from the clean to the slightly overdriven to the heavily overdriven to the completely over the top. All these are stages of transitions, and you do that with your fingers on the instrument as well when the behavior of the guitar suggests that you can do things this way that maybe the other instrument doesn't do so well, but it does other things well, so it suggests your direction go this other way instead.
Yeah.
That's how when you're in playing 5 different guitars that are all interesting, but they're just different flavors, as opposed to guitars that are just crap. When you play a guitar that's just crap, you want to turn the amp all the way to 10 and play the worst out of tune shit that you can play and then break the guitar. And that's exciting too, but for entirely different reasons. And legit.
Yeah.
And the audience will just get as excited about that. I mean, I saw Todd Rundgren play with a Duosonic or a Music Master or one of those, one of those student 2 pickup guitars.
Yeah.
The Duosonic or whatever it was.
Mustang.
He had a couple of them. He had a black one and he had a white one, and he was playing most of the white one. And then when we broke a string, he switched to the black one. Entirely different. Same guitar, same pickup setup, everything, but boy, an entirely different sound. Immediately, you could tell, wow, that the white one sounded way better. And then halfway through the song, he finishes that song and then he switches back to the white one. I'm like, oh, I don't know, that black one had a thing. You just do that. You do that.
Yeah.
You do that. You justify it in your mind,
Yeah.
or if it's not in your mind, wherever it is in your body, you justify where you are with the thing
Yeah.
and accommodate that. And as an audience member, you do the same thing. Oh man, that white one sounded way better than the black one. And then it goes back to the white one. Oh wait, what? What just happened?
Yeah.
I go through that all the time. I just saw, Helmet play, and same amp, same guitar, same songs, same sound man, same basic mix, but he got rid of this big albatross of a pedal board he's been using forever, and and stripped it down to a more touring friendly, easier to travel with, easier to ship, little compact rig
Yeah.
that got all of the essential stuff that he actually uses all the time live. And oh my God, the difference between the last time I saw them and this time, it was night and day.
Huh.
The sound stage was immense. The breadth and the detail of the guitar sounds were completely different. And of course, the groove of the band was different. They were all really locked. And I've talked to a few people that said that the recent performances that they've seen, the band seemed a lot more locked and focused than they were in previous. And that's exactly how I felt. But I could not get over how much bigger of a soundstage there was just to his sound alone.
Huh.
And I had to attribute it to the fact that his previous rig had all these buffers.
Oh, sure.
There was the main buffer, and then there was a buffer between these pedals, and a different buffer between. There's buffers everywhere, and all that stuff got stripped out so that it was just a simple loop switcher for the pedals that didn't necessarily have a buffer. And they had a main one in the beginning, and then the output stage at the end, and the interaction between of the pedals connected together within the switching system was different because they didn't have buffers everywhere. It opened the harmonics up in just a surreal way, and I just sat back away from the stage for a while and just went, the harmonics were just like sparkling.
Dancing around.
And then I got up to the front of the stage to really hear what was going on. Of course, I had to have my fingers in my ears because they didn't bring earplugs. They weren't terribly loud on stage. The sound, the front of house was deafening, but on stage itself, wasn't that terribly loud, but I plugged my ears so that I could hear the stuff that you can't hear when your ears are getting pounded by the onstage volume, the drums and the bass and all of that.
Hey,
So I'm
speaking
up
of-
there leaning against the stage going like this, and all of a sudden I find myself dragged into the mosh pit and thrown down to the ground and all this, and then guys pick me up. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. And then I'm back in the mosh pit. I'm just trying to get my way back to the stage so I can plug my ears and listen to the harmonics
didn't know
again.
that happened.
Yeah, I actually got knocked down in the mosh pit, and these two guys just immediately grabbed me like here and stood me up and, you all right? Yeah, I'm great. Slapped me on the back, and then they went back to their moshing, and I probably took another couple of hits on my way back to the stage, but it was fun.
Like, you good? All right, back on the
Yeah,
floor
right.
you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Fucker.
Yeah. I was like,
Speaking of that, what are the odds of getting Paige and True God next time? Is that going to happen?
oh yeah. It's pretty much all set up. We're gonna have Paige Hamilton and from Helmet and Anthony Truglio from
Liege Lord.
From Liege Lord.
Yeah, we're going to do the long distance.
On the show some longtime tight buddies of mine, and we're just basically gonna chat as buddies about our everyday lives and have maybe a few cocktails in the process.
Ba-dum-bum-ba-dum-bum.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we're over the 2-hour mark.
Do you think we spent enough time on the guitars to satisfy the those who might like? Well, everybody sort of, we've described what we played through, and it actually sonically, I think it sounded good, and so
It's opening up this conversation to just tone production and how things sound different. We talked about maybe doing some videos where you and I played the same example on the same guitar, with the same amp, with the same settings, and just see how it comes across.
Well, I mean, I already know. I
gonna be
I want them to see how it comes across, because I know how it comes across, and it is entirely about your approach to the instrument, your pick attack, your vibrato is intense. I love your vibrato. It's not overly vibrato. It's not that super. There's an over the top vibrato that kind of, it's like on the borderline out of tune.
Oh yeah.
There's that
Yeah.
that everybody
The super wide. Oh,
yeah,
the
it's
shredder vibrato.
Yeah.
Like super.
I want to explore the gain thing, because there's this impression about gain, and I have a theory that when people talk about whether an amp has enough gain for a particular kind of music, I'm starting to really believe that they're not talking about gain. They're only using the word gain because they don't know how to describe what it is that they're really reacting to. And a perfect example of that was Pete Thorne playing through the Deliverance 60 and going, yeah, I've always heard that these amps are kind of stiff and tight and blah, 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 and like metal focus and blah, blah, blah. And then he plays the Eddie riff, the
Unchained?
the Unchained riff, and he goes, yeah, it sounds like the Unchained riff, but it's really not. The Unchained riff doesn't have as much gain, and he turned the gain down like 2 notches or something like that, and all of a sudden all the harmonics were there in the right place, and it sounded just like the Unchained riff, and not a person flinched. Nobody said, dude, you nailed it. Nobody said that.
Yeah.
And I have a theory that the people that are big Van Halen fans and that have spent many, many days, months, years trying to nail that have been told that you've got to have a particular Marshall and a particular. So when you hear it come out of the least likely piece of gear that you would expect it to come out of, it's almost like they're pissed. Wait a minute. All this time I've been told, blah, but what he's doing is what? I think that throws up a question mark in people's minds, and I think it rightly should, because it really all points back to it sounds the way it does because he sounds the way he sounds. Just like when I played that riff and then I handed it to you and you played it through my guitar and your approach was entirely different. I'm a real sloppy player. I can tell you're not maybe practicing the stuff that you normally play as much as you do, because you were a little sloppier than you usually are. But I like that because
I was like, I can barely play right now.
but the attitude was there, and that's what gets it. That's what gets you home every time. So there's this impression when people see the Deliverance and then they hear the sound, they go, well, yeah, but that isn't really a gainy amp. I don't know if that's got enough gain for metal. And I'm just thinking hogwash. Well, we're going to be talking about that, and we're going to be demonstrating that and proving that what you see is not necessarily predisposing of what you're going to hear or what you're going to experience when you play something. And we're going to spend more time on that.
So we'll have video content coming up on the channel about that stuff. And then next time we see you on here, we'll have Paige and True on. And maybe we'll, the guys won't be here because they're on the other side of the country, so we can't have a Phil Collins yet.
We'll send them the recipe.
Oh, and with that, let's hit the road.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for hanging with us.
Absolutely, you guys. Thank you. Have a dandy couple weeks.
Okay, let's go crack open another beer.
Hey.